horror fans? Welcome back to 237, back with another review. And this is kind of a random one because for the last 3 or 4 months or so, I have not had Netflix. Um, Lost it during the move. I couldn't use a certain account anymore, but now I have it back. And I was curious as to what was on there because it's been a while. And I realized that now that I have Netflix, I could check out this one film that it came out in March, but it was made available on Netflix in July, I believe, of internationally anyway. So right in the middle of that time where I haven't had Netflix is when it went to Netflix. And it seemed to generate quite a bit of buzz, at least in the horror community. I remember seeing a lot of videos, a lot of reviews saying like scariest movie on Netflix, most disturbing movie on Netflix, definitely the horror movie to watch on Netflix. And so I thought, well, I definitely got to check it out. But I didn't look up a trailer, I didn't read a synopsis, I didn't know a thing about it. I didn't even know that it was a Taiwanese film, which I believe this is the only film from Taiwan that I've reviewed so far. But I do like Asian horror films. And this one has a bit of everything from Asian horror. Creepy supernatural creatures and ghosts, uh, creepy little girl, curses, uh, heavy religious themes, some tragedy. Uh, Pretty much has everything. And it's the film that came out this year, Incantation. Now, all I knew about this film was the title itself. Just the title and that it was on Netflix. That's all I knew about it. So I went into this movie as blind as possible. Now, it was directed by, I believe his name is Kevin Ko. And it stars, I apologize ahead of time if I butcher any of these names. Sai Swan Yen, Huang Sin Ting, Cao Yang Swan, Sean Lin, and RQ. Now, it was written by Kevin Ko and Chang Shei Wei. Chen Ko Chin did the cinematography, and Rocket Lee scored it. Made 5.7 million. Now, the thing about the score, it kind of, I find it kind of confusing because this is a found footage film. Now, if you follow my channel, you know found footage is largely hit or miss for me, with a lot of misses. But this one does do something very interesting. It also makes it almost kind of an interactive film, because the whole idea is throughout all these periods throughout the film, the main character will talk to you directly. The symbol of this curse will come up on the screen with the incantation down underneath, encouraging us, the viewer, to say it out loud or think it along with the main character. It does do some illusions. Like at one point when it gives us the full translation, it's just black with all the white symbols. Then it goes to a white screen, and because of our eyes, it's still like there with the incantation down underneath. But that's like towards the very end. But throughout the film, it encourages us, the viewers, to continue this incantation. So it was kind of a interactive found footage film almost, which I thought was very interesting. I don't know too much about this film because I don't really know a whole lot about, I don't really want to say Asian religions, but religions from that part of the world. I mean, it deals with this one deity named Mother Buddha, which takes elements of Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism. It kind of mixes a bunch of different things. Also, even its appearance is similar to the Hindu goddess Kali or Mahakali. Then there's just a bunch of other stuff that uh, mainly about the design and background of this uh, a deity. The film is also very loosely based on this true story that happened where there was this family of six where they were all convinced that each one was possessed by some sort of Chinese folk deity, which it I guess the whole idea of Mother Buddha within the film kind of comes from like folklore. I don't want to say folklore religion, but sort of the folklore that comes from religion, just like different things that people take away from it. And they each thought they were all possessed, and they all just you know injured, burnt each other with incense, hit each other with tablets. But then they singled out the eldest daughter for being, I guess, the worst or the biggest of all the deities, and tortured her to death. And then they were all charged, and it was considered a case of mass hysteria. This is much more narrowed down because the whole movie really it jumps between two different timelines, which can get very confusing. That was something that confused me quite a bit, at least to a certain point in the film, where we have this woman named Lee Roma. I believe, was it Lee Roma or Lee Roman? Lee Roma, I believe her name was. Ronan. Wow, Lee Ronan. She it goes back and forth between 6 years ago, where her boyfriend, and his cousin, they're part of this Ghostbusters group. They didn't really have a show. I think it was just like a YouTube channel. They go to these places, they check it out, they try to catch ghosts. But they went to this area where the boyfriend was from, where it's kind of this cult where they all believe they're all cursed by the same deity, Mother Buddha. They witness some rituals and some of their traditions. They break this sacred taboo, and some shit happens, and Lee Ronan believes that she's cursed by Mother Buddha. So one timeline is just them back then 6 years ago, and then the present where she has a young daughter, and she believes that the daughter is now cursed. Uh, and then in between, pretty much, she went to a mental hospital. Uh, they thought that the whole belief in the curse was some sort of mental illness. She got cured of it. She was then granted custody of her daughter. She gets to bring her daughter home, but that's when she thinks her daughter's now possessed, cursed. It's more of a curse film than a possession film. But the whole movie is kind of presented to us as almost kind of like a like and share post. It's like, my daughter is cursed. I need you to do this incantation for me. It's a blessing. And kind of just, instead of just saying, well, because you gotta have the movie, it is kind of lengthy too. It hovers just under 2 hours. So it is kind of lengthy, but pretty much we're going back and forth between the events with the three in this area where they break the taboo, and then this time, the present timeline where she gets her daughter, and we just see how she comes to believe that her daughter is now cursed, and how she's going to correct it. Now, if you've seen my reviews for found footage films, you know that one of the biggest things for me with found footage is, can I believe that this is being filmed? Or that what is being filmed, can I believe that there is a reason why it's being filmed? Now, for this, kinda, sorta, except there are a lot of camera angles going on. Even when it's just Lee Ronan, just by herself, there's multiple camera angles going on. And some of them are like security footage or CCTV footage, which I don't understand how she would have got that footage to put this sort of documentary together. So that's really the only kind of leap of logic that I guess you have to take, because there's no way she would have gotten a hold of it. Some of it even kind of almost takes place in the future, like when it shows her breaking out of the hospital or sneaking her daughter out of the hospital. There's like security footage. So that I do find I kind of struggle with my disbelief a little bit. Other parts, like when her daughter starts acting kind of strange and bizarre, she hides this little camera in a stuffed animal bunny, which I kind of forgot about, because then like she's sitting in the hospital in the waiting room, and it looks like there's someone sitting right next to her filming her, and I'm just like, who's filming? Like, where's this camera angle coming from? Then I remember she had the bunny with her. But a lot of times there is just a lot of angles where you're just wondering, where is that camera? Why is it there? Who's filming? How did she get the footage? So there's a lot of camera stuff going on. If this was like a one camera operation, I probably could have believed it a lot more. Um, However, that being said, the scare scenes definitely work better with this found footage format. If it was just a regular movie, it probably would have looked like another cheesy Blumhouse film. But where it does look like camcorder footage, well, I say camcorder, but it also has that look kind of like The Gallows, where it looks like a studio film just trying to give it that handheld type style to make it look found footage. It it looks polished, clean, expensive, or pricier than, you know, any random person making a movie with their camera. It definitely looks more like a format than it does like a believable found footage film. So that might take you out of it a bit. But there is some wild stuff that happens in here. I'm guessing this curse can make people kill themselves. There's several scenes in like the very beginning where like we just see security footage of like officers or whoever just shooting themselves or jumping out of windows. Or this one woman in like a glass blowing class where she just takes the thing, shoves it in her mouth. And then there's a few scenes of people who believe they're afflicted by the curse, where they just kind of bash their heads in front of the camera. If suicide is like a touchy subject with you, it is kind of a major point in the film, uh, but there's very few scenes of it. Now, it does kind of get confusing, and there is a twist, so I'm going to save it for spoilers, but essentially, yeah, we go back and forth between this Ghostbusters episode, I guess, where they break the taboo. They learn about this religion to an extent, and then present day, was she trying to raise her daughter. And at first, the daughter does kind of typical horror movie, creepy kid stuff, like saying, "Oh, there." I think she says "baddie," but there's someone up there. I need you to pull him down. We don't see anybody, but the mom kind of obliges, acts like she's pulling the boogeyman down. Scenes like when she's carrying the bunny with the camera in it, like she's talking to someone that's not there. At one point, there was one scene that just kind of had me go like, "What? Like, well, now where's the story gonna go?" Where she's like sitting on the ledge of a building, and she's just like, "Well, now what do I do?" Okay, it just jumps off. But then I guess she's fine. Uh, there's also recurring images of like caterpillars. I'm not sure what kind they are. Kind of like the one that's on the cover of Hereditary. Caterpillars just show up. That's kind of like I guess that's kind of like the locusts in like Christianity, or might be a bad example or a bad analogy, but there's scenes where just caterpillars just show up. She starts getting all these rashes and sores all over her. At one point, she goes to see a shaman. Shaman gives her this thing and says, "Okay, don't feed her for 7 days, and this curse will be lifted." Because, well, I don't know if I should say that before spoilers, but she she ends up feeling bad because it also kind of plays on the horror of, okay, what if your child is going through all this? How would you react? I mean, you're because she's definitely younger than 6. Maybe she's like 4 or 5, but it does imply that she's pregnant or got pregnant during that Ghostbusters portion. Because they do this one ritual where they give up their names to the people, and the woman says, "Oh, and when you get pregnant, you must offer your child to a Mother Buddha." And then there's this little girl there with one ear. She says that her mother cut it off as an offering. But anyway, so it does play on the idea of how far would you go to protect your kid, and even if there's something like a curse or some sort of evil surrounding your kid, would you be able to follow the rules explicitly? She ends up feeding her even just a little tiny chunk of pineapple. And if you have trypophobia, this movie may get to you too, because she doesn't just get all these sores. It's like all these like patches of bloody holes, like something that would freak out anyone with trypophobia all over her body because she ate. So she has to make her puke it back up. There's not really a whole lot to say without getting into spoilers, but it is kind of slow. It does take a while for it to really get going. It does get confusing with its two timelines, because one thing they could have done was they could have made the 6 years ago footage maybe a little grainier, maybe look like a different camera, because it does make it look like it's all going on at the same time, and it does kind of get confusing. You do have these interviews with other people involved with the story to kind of make it feel more like a documentary. But it was kind of neat to try to come up with this sort of interactive idea for found footage. Like, not just get the audience to go through this experience with the characters as if it's real, but pull us into it and make us a part of it as well. And the twist, I'm sure there will be, well, actually, people in the comments saying, "I figured it out as soon as I signed into Netflix. It was right there. I could totally tell." I didn't know that this is where it was going, but I did like the twist. It was kind of like a oh shit moment. But yeah, if Asian horror is definitely your thing, but you want to see like a curse movie done that it really makes it feel like there's no way out of it. I mean, I've seen a few curse movies, like Asian horror curse movies. They definitely treat curses like this is unavoidable. You just gotta find a cure or a way to deal with it, because there's nothing like no scenes like in Sinister where you can just figure out, oh, all this exposition, this is how we stop it. No, you can only learn what it is. There is a lot of exposition in this, which is part of this documentary. It is a bit slower, but the scare scenes are worth it. It's really pushed more towards the third act, but I did think that the scare scenes were actually very well done and effective. But now I'm going to get to spoilers. So, really, the twist is, or they believe that this, well, first I should say the taboo. Because 6 years ago, the three of them were there. They kind of observed these customs or traditions or rituals. And there's this tunnel, like the sacred place where you must not go. But one of them just has to go in there to get footage, kicks the door down, they start going through the tunnels, and they see all these little shrines and altars, and of course they touch and fuck with all of them. But the main one they break is that there is this statue of Mother Buddha with something over her face. And we don't see it at first, but like they lift it and it sort of releases the whole deity. And then you kind of get some crazy moments, like where one guy's instantly, I guess, possessed and chasing the other one through the tunnels. You see all these hands just coming out of the walls and the ceiling. The arms just get longer. They're the same color as the stone. And it is creepy. I mean, because like the guy's kind of fumbling with the camera, shit's falling, so it's like hands start coming out, but then when he puts the camera back, like the arms are all the way in to grab him. The camera kind of flickers, and when it comes back, he's gone. So the whole thing was they lifted the face on the statue and essentially released everything. But the curse, they believe that the more people that are cursed, the weaker the curse is for everybody, or for a certain person, or for whoever had it first. Either way, it diminishes the curse that's already inflicted on someone. So, this whole time, we, in the very beginning of the film, when she's saying, this is the incantation, please say it with me out loud in your mind, that's fine. But say it, almost as if like a thoughts and prayers type Facebook post. So every time that scene comes back, or it just shows the symbol with the incantation, encouraging us to say it, it's actually the incantation to give us the curse. So it's kind of like the Truth or Dare ending from Blumhouse, where she makes the video, that way everyone sees it, that way the game of Truth or Dare just spreads. Kind of like that. This movie is miles better than that crap. But so I was like, okay, tricked us, because obviously we can't just be like, well, here, I'll take it from you. So it's like she's tricking us into wanting to give her our thoughts and prayers, but really this incantation is cursing us, because the daughter falls so deep into this curse, there's nothing she can do. So sort of like a last ditch effort, she thinks, I'll make this video, I'll make this documentary, putting everything in context, when she could have just made a video saying, she's very sick, in my religion this is something that means, is kind of a blessing, so just send me your thoughts with this prayer. But no, she gives us a whole documentary in context. But so yeah, the twist is the incantation gives us the curse, it spreads the curse. And that's basically it. And then at the end, she kind of makes this testimonial, kind of saying, if you ever do wake up, because she's in critical condition, coma, both from the malnutrition of just her trying to cure her and not eating, and just what the curse is doing to her body with all these lesions and blotches and the trypophobia spots. Now she pretty much, telling her, forget my name, be happy, have a good life, and I'm going to try to fix this. So at the very end, she just goes into the tunnels. It does something to all the other shrines, but then goes up to the statue itself, which puts the camera right in its face. So when she lifts the thing, we see it's like this giant hole. It's like this endless tunnel. Basically, it looks like the inside of a mouth, but with the look of trypophobia, all inside, all the way down, which then leads her, she drops the camera, she just commit suicide by smashing her head off the altar. And in the tunnels, what all these things are, all these different altars, are sort of like little talismans or ways of trapping uh, Mother Buddha within the tunnel. There's also a lot of mirrors hanging up because I think in Chinese religion, spirits and mirrors, there's a lot to do with that. So that's basically the twist. That's how it ends. And yeah, she went from breaking this taboo, believing she's cursed. She goes mental hospital, tells her it's just mental illness, it's all in her head, gets cured, gets her daughter back. Daughter starts acting weird, because of the curse that she actually did have and how it will affect her child. And then she just tries to figure out how to get rid of the curse. And her last effort is to just spread it to everyone else. There is a good chunk of film where the foster dad that took care of the daughter is also doing his portion of the documentary, kind of showing everything he found out about this religion and this bit of film from when they were down in the tunnels, how the camera file was damaged, but it can be restored. And then he ended up, his teeth were falling out. He was getting lesions, so he ended up killing himself too on camera. But other than like the hands coming out of the wall and the stuff within the tunnels, there's a scene where the cousin of the boyfriend, when he makes it out of the tunnel, Lee Ronan's now chasing him around this area. But he just, we get the idea he died in the tunnel, now he's a ghost. He just keeps popping up, yelling, "Don't ask!" Like she's chasing him, he goes around a corner, and it looks like someone's on fire, but then he's off in the distance yelling, "Don't ask!" So she chases him. And there's this part where there's this group of like naked guys with all these runes all over them, and they just kind of stand there, like watching her go by. That's very creepy. When she breaks the shaman's rules about don't feed her for 7 days, that she does on day 3, she takes her to the shaman. Shaman's dead, but the shaman's wife, her assistant, is way off in the corner back too. It's like going like this, like blood's dripping down her neck. Like, you fed her, didn't you? You were told not to. And some creepy shit's going on in there. There are some jump scares. Some of them earned, some of them kind of typical. But as far as just an Asian horror film, a curse or possession film, and a found footage film, I thought this was very different and unique in and of itself. I don't know if I like it as much as everyone else does. It seemed to get quite a bit of hype, at least on YouTube, with people reviewing it within the horror community. I mean, it's definitely good. It's definitely well made. I would say I do wish that maybe it didn't look as polished, that it didn't look as much as like a studio film trying to look found footage. Less camera angles, maybe more narrow and focused as far as camera work goes. Because it might as well just be a movie, just with all these different angles, even when it's just focusing on her. So it kind of takes you out of the believability with that. But whenever there's a scare scene, like with real crazy supernatural shit or creatures, monsters, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, whenever that's going on, or whenever we see like body effects of the curse taking over, which the effects very convincing, they looked good. It does look better and more convincing and more effective with the found footage format. So the found footage helps itself, but it's also kind of a detriment just because of the direction. It did get a bit confusing with the two timelines because it looks so similar, but you get used to it. Other than that, yeah, it's solid. It's a decent film. I will say what does help it stand out in just the slew of found footage films is the whole kind of uh, interaction with the audience, getting us involved as well. I thought that was very interesting, and it did work. It wasn't just part of the format. It ties into the plot, which I thought was very clever. So big points for that. So yeah, finally got to see Incantation, which for a while was, or for a short while was considered like the most disturbing film on Netflix, scariest on Netflix. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it it was a surprise. It was just a surprise that came out of Taiwan straight to Netflix, and yeah, it was decent. So that's my review for Incantation, and thank you for watching.